Good morning. Up, down, up, down. Which way are we going to go? Well, I still think it's down. Yesterday's close was, maybe it gets a little higher. Now this morning so far, it looks like down. Bar by bar analysis. It's one of the most powerful, helpful concepts. I don't know what light bulb moment turned that on for me years ago. Well, I kind of do. Wasn't based on really the analysis of a trade developing. It was about controlling emotions when in a trade. So we're all affected by emotions, and oh, this is going to happen. It's a red bar. Oh my God, I'm long. What's going to happen? Blah, blah, blah. And anyway, so it's something like today, what's going on, or this week. Yesterday I spoke about, okay, we have a big picture. And what's the big picture? Well, what's happening in higher time frames? Is the trend up, down, or sideways? Is the trend down on a daily time frame, but up in a weekly and monthly time frame? Or as we have situation now, daily trend is down, and we have a weekly trend looking at the S&Ps that we would say is sideways, that is teetering on turning down here. And we have certainly other stocks in different markets that are already down in multiple timeframes, daily, weekly. We covered that yesterday in MT Live when we looked at the trend matrix. In any event, it's been a choppy week where, we have situations where it just looks like there's no doubt it's going down. And then it's like, oh, it's going up. It looks like it's going to continue to go up. And then we'll see what today ends. But if it's a red bar, we say, well, it should go down. The trend is down. We got that, in this case, the slightly higher high or equal high, and down in a nasty way. It's only retraced a minimal amount. The weekly trend is damaged. We got a red bar last week. So far this week has been consolidating, going nowhere. And so we're in this kind of limbo stage until things continue to move in the big picture view, meaning lower to some other level. And so what would change that? Well, what if this bar is a bottoming tail bar, or if today's bar went down under yesterday's low and was a bottoming tail bar? That would become more convincing that it could trend back up again. But that wouldn't change the big picture. That would just say tomorrow we think it's going to go up, against just looking at this little piece of what's going on within this big picture. That still suggests we're in a correction. That hasn't changed. Running in place. We'll see where today ends. As always, our systematic method is what is the first reference point of support and resistance? That's the prior bar's high and low. And why is that? Well, because that's what we have in the time frame we're looking at, and we go down to lower time frames. Within yesterday's high, there are going to be pivots, right, of resistance, and within yesterday's low, there are going to be pivots of support. And now we have an inside day looking at these S&P futures, which is, we're just going nowhere, but we're below the open and closer to the low, which shifts us to thinking, hey, a little bit more and we can break this low and go down into the void below and pick up some momentum to the downside. And then at the end of today, the software will mark this with a PL as a pivot low. So as this bar is developing, yes, this could be a pivot low, but should today be a big down bar that took out the low, that will never be a pivot low. So we're dealing with this choppy price action here. Which way are things going? Clearly, no one really knows. And one of the things that you learn eventually is like, no matter how much money you have to trade, whether you have a hedge fund with billions, there are points in time where all the research in the world still leads to uncertainty. And that's what's happening right now. Right? It's like, can it pop higher? Can it negate this big picture? Are we going to go down and break the lows, which these charts here suggest that is what should happen? It's just not happening yet. Well, that's where we're at, and we create a bias as to what should happen, based on what's going on here. And as we've been saying pretty much this week, sitting on hands or not doing too much, or of course intraday time frames and so on. That's what we're dealing with right now. Until we get an event day or a something day, we don't have it. And we'll see how today develops. So as far as gaps, right? So with the futures, we look at complete bars. Now, depending on where things are pre-market, and we still have, 20 minutes to go, which can change. We do see that happen where things change dramatically from when I'm speaking to the open, and Dan's speaking, but here at 443, where is that relative to yesterday? Well, it's pretty far down, gapping below that bar is open, and we see a little bit of a larger candle body from the prior day, but again, market's been going nowhere. However, look at what happened yesterday, and on that Fed minutes news, which was like, why is the market going up? This is nothing new, but anyway, could be hedges being undone, whatever. We look at the chart, and that was a nice move to the upside. It took out the pivot highs. It came down here to this little minor support area. It held, went up. Price action in this time frame was, let's say, neutral within this nasty down move, but this moment in time said it should go up, and now it's gapping down, and longs that held on overnight, which I'm not saying they shouldn't have, this could have gapped up and went higher, but now it's gapping down here. So what is that emotional open going on as far as those that are here that bought into the close and pushed this up very nicely and took out resistance? Now they're on edge. Put yourself in the chart. It's like, oh my God, I just hope this thing can keep going up, right? Maybe I can get my money back. Well, if it rolls over here, maybe not. And that is going to increase supply. That we'll see if it then can break our first reference point of support and things can go lower. Where's the next reference point of support? Oh, it's right here. So it's going to be another stopping point. And it's just going to lead to more uncertainty unless, we see it gets to this point and it can't go up. And we say, well, why'd it go down? Well, because it didn't go up. So that is based on reaching a reference point of, in this case, say support, and it holds there and it goes sideways for a while and it can't rally. Or we see it tries to rally and it forms a topping tail. That points us to it's going to go lower. But right now, we're starting the day with a little bit of a bearish price action here with a gap down into this area. And we'll see how far it goes. SPY 200 about to cross. Well, they're converging moving averages here. And, many years ago, I used to look at that, and sometimes you'd have 2 or 3 or 4, depending on what moving averages you're using, that would be converging at a point in time. And I would look at that as being areas of support or resistance based on those converging moving averages. And then other times it's like they were meaningless. But what it tells us as we evolve in our understanding of technical analysis and what that means, and how I eventually moved to thinking, well, what is this moving average on a higher time frame? Okay, let's say the monthly, and the 50 relates to the weekly. And so we have this short-term and long-term moving averages coming here. And so it really, as I view it, is more about individuals, whether they're funds or institutions or individual traders, that things are reaching kind of an inflection point with different views, long-term, short-term, intermediate term, coming together. Things are getting ready to move in one direction or the other. And then again, bar by bar analysis. As far as a moving average crossing, I think that's meaningless, because it's dependent on which way one day might go and close. So the crossing of a moving average, looking at things that way, it just leads to even more uncertainty, because which moving averages cross, which ones don't, which type of moving averages, the lengths of them, so on and so forth. Am I using the right ones? You just may, put a gun to your head and, go crazy with all that. And so just look at the price action. We use the same moving averages every single day of a simple type, and we see these converging here, and we see this cluster of price action here, and this whip up and down. And so we're trading inside in the middle of this big nasty bar. And that's one of our concepts, is that, hey, this should stay in the lower half. Now it's a little bit above. It's good enough for factory work. We have 2 days. We're closed above the open of price, green bars. It's like, that's more bullish than bearish, but still neutral. Can it get on one side or the other? So here we come back to what we've been talking about. Now it's gapping down. It was the start of, hey, here's 2 attempts to take it higher. It ain't making it. So this little bounce here, that's pre-market into this resistance, and roll back over again, and let's get something going. This is a good start to the bearish, overall big picture bearish view of gapping down to this level, but it's not like it's gapping down here, or gapping, a significant gap, and there's nothing to the left. So we'll see what today brings here. Ideally, we do get that wherever it's going to close. My preference would be closing down another red bar, because while we have a bias based on our analysis, we do bring our personal preference into this for our own self-serving reasons. And so my personal preference and self-serving reason is to see this break, right? And we got that initial move, and I want to see this play out and come down here and get a measured type of a move, which will line up here, maybe below this whole number in this area, that I believe will form a fantastic buying opportunity for us. We haven't had a big correction in quite a long time, and to have something coming down here, and we have this little measured move type of thing, but we've got, it lines up with support. You can see the head and shoulders top that's formed, and here's the neckline. Let's get on with it. And we begin to reverse all of this big picture analysis to, hey, we're at a probable turning point. Let's see what patterns form. Right? That is too low, George. Well, that's what this analysis points to. It doesn't mean it's going there. Whether it stops at this pivot down here, right? We have other concepts called creating support, creating resistance, and different patterns. So there's another concept that, while I would like this, there are other concepts that say, well, Gregory, as my mother used to call me when I was in trouble, ain't it happening, right? So this pattern and whatever analysis might form is going to suggest that's not going to happen. And as time goes on, you'll see the analysis evolve here pre-market, and what's happening, of course, in the newsletters. on the weekend videos and so on. All right, so let's move on. I'm kind of talking too long here this morning. Same story here. We see a lot of patterns developing in the same way. This has been showing some relative strength. It continues to. It's at the top of a green bar here, but at resistance. We'll see if it's ready to roll over. And Q's YM. All right. More like the S&P, but we see it took out the highs there. Same sideways price action going nowhere. ETF transport showed some relative strength. Interesting. Airlines, they did well. Cruise lines did well. Some of the casino stocks have done much better. So it seems like this pandemic is behind us. And let's get on with it. Let's look at transports cash here. Still big picture is lower, but marking time. And, that's not giving us any information, but that's about it. Well, interest rates, did they move at all? Down a little, not much going on there. So a lot of running in place for the most part this week. Right? Can you please explain shorter, lower pivot high after it made a lower pivot low? Can't get it right without understanding. A shorter, lower pivot high after it made a lower pivot low. Maybe I need to draw it. A lower pivot high after it made a lower pivot low. Well, that sounds like a downtrend to me. But, the way you explained it, a lower pivot high after it made a lower pivot low. It's just weakness. It's going down. The thing is, what preceded it? Right? So sometimes a lower pivot high, lower pivot low after a momentum move is going to form a buy setup. Take a $7 trial to the green room, ask questions. You don't have to trade. You don't have to do anything there. But if you want education, when Dan and I are speaking for $7, you can't go wrong. Give it a shot. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, in last night's video, I said, I don't know where we're going, but over yesterday's high, short-term bullish, yesterday's low, more bearish. And I gave a big watch list. So our opens are fine. If you have any questions, just ask. Tesla down 11. We have a condor. So actually this being down is a plus because we got the 950, 850, and that's what a condor is. We just want it to bobble around in between the two short strikes. I'll check the premium. We might have a nice open gain here at the open. So let's go right to gappers. The ARC lady, I just saw on CNBC that she's going to be talking today on CNBC. And, these were potential bottoming patterns, but we have sell setups on the weekly. And the monthly still has, momentum slowed, but still has room to fall. Oh, shit, something just got deleted there. Oh, this thing. NTCO. I just saw going by the ticker. That is a beautiful bottoming pattern. When we do MT live, this is exactly what we're looking for. A multi-month consolidation, get the 20 and 50 to flatten, get a couple something situations here, greater than 100% retracement, high or low, closing breakout price void. So it's unfortunately it's gapping up this morning, but that would have been a nice afternoon breakout of awesome price. So let's watch that on a pullback. Roku week. I know it's down a lot, but hey, Debbie, are you here? Yeah, you are. You know, we were talking about bear flags. This is more of a bear flag. It's a 30-degree counter trend to the prevailing trend, sell setup. If this takes out the week's low, Roku looks lower. Same with Zoom. It's not a bear flag, but it's bearish consolidation and a downtrend. So this is the example of there's no something something bar. People like to say, oh, well, it's cheap right here. Look, let me buy it on support. Well, it's like Greg says, do you feel lucky? Because there's no technical compelling reason that this should hold here, none. And so you have to assume that it's a consolidation and a downtrend. And look at that, I gotta go to the monthly. Look, it's still, I think I said this a couple weeks ago, that this has room to 100 on the monthlies. See that? Wow, the thing went to $600. That was a climactic sell setup. Greg, I don't know why we don't core short these. I think I pretty with 99% certainty remember talking about it as a core short. We'd have to go back and look at the daily and weekly and see where the entry was, but still looks lower. Upstart had a nice earnings breakout gap yesterday. Still holding well. Looks higher. You just got to figure out what time frame you're trading and the pattern and stop. Housing, the only reason I'm looking at this is they had housing numbers, but I see nothing there. This is also just it's a trading range in a downtrend. So I got zero interest with that. Let's see, Jacopo MDXG. Yeah, that's a 1, 2, 3 from a bottoming pattern, sure. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. MDXG. So it's a 1, 2, 3 from a bottoming pattern. Perfect. You can buy the high, stop. You know, sometimes when you have a nice pivot on this wide range bar based on retracement, I don't like it. I don't need it to be the stop, the prior day's low. Just based on retracement, it better not come under this bar, 472, or else that's probably a breakout failure. But I like it. Look at bottom right. I posted these 30-minute high on Fiverr and AMAT for our weekly options trader. So this is not even a bottoming pattern. This is a nasty downtrend, but it had earnings and we're getting a shock pattern breakout. So this is a pro gap. That's what we call a pro gap. It's igniting a new move up from down. So I said 30-minute high. Let's sell a put spread. AMAT earnings. Well, they're giving up their pre-market gap here. But we'll. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Amazon. My bad. But Amazon's a put spread watch over yesterday's high. Well, back to Amazon. Loeb, a big shareholder and I think hedge fund activist, he came out and said, oh, I think Amazon has $1 trillion of locked up value. And that made it, you know, it was up $20 or whatever it was pre-market. Now it's giving it up. But over yesterday's high, put spread idea. AMAT gapping up here on earnings 143. That's 30-minute high, put spread idea. This is, you know, we do the MT live called the turn, TURN. And this is a multi-week turn. I mean, it actually made the turn over here, but just didn't get very far. But big price void, so that's a put spread. I read in the journal today that Disney is getting into the residential housing business. But I had that big gap up on earnings, but no pattern there. So moving on. Marin gap breakout 396. The gap percent wise is huge. So we'll come back to it. There's the Amazon Hasbro earnings. Gap's too big. Otherwise, that would be a put spread idea. If this were gapping up to 98, 99, 100, but let's look, it's way up here, 103. So the gap's too big. Here, let me post for you all my put spread watch. I like doing that in the mornings, particularly in earnings season. Alpha November trade's so sloppy, but that's on the list of a put spread. Walmart had earnings. Wow, that is vicious moves pre-market. It was up $3-4 earlier, and we'll come back to that 30-minute high. ATUS gapping down. That'd be a call spread, but I don't think you'll get anything for it. Ample 26. Wow, that's good. That's head chopped off. Gap in all-time lows. Gap's too big for me. VMware. I don't see any great pattern there, Michael. If you can tell me what you're looking at, gapping, yes, nothing's jumping out at me. Well, Debbie, 30-minute high, I agree with you. Just let the earnings shake. Let the earnings shake and bake, settle down. Vico Soare, gap, there's put spread idea under yesterday's low. Vico Soare, ride, yesterday's high, yep, I mentioned that in the video. TYL, no pattern. Synops, put spread idea, watch it on a pullback. Pega getting slammed, call spread idea on a bounce. MTTR, that's